What do you do, my gente? Your boys coming through once again with the new video. In today's video, we're gonna do a reaction to the Gunners Collectives. He came out with the video talking about the private prisons and the California inmates. He was talking about CCAs, and basically what he was talking about did not make sense at all. He got the whole thing messed up, and it does not make sense what he's saying. Of course, I was out of state. I just made it for 1 year. I was in La Palma, which is located in Eloy, Arizona. And I only lasted 1 year, but it was enough time to understand what was going on right there and be laced up basically of who was able to go and who wasn't able to go, right? So with this being said, let's get to the video. First of all, let me explain to you why this issue came about. There was an issue in California with the overcrowding. It was 2006, 2007, 2008, around those years. There was a big issue in California. The federal courts were suing CDCR, and they were demanding a solution, right? Because there was people on gyms, and there was people on day rooms and stuff like that. But it was only those people who had level 3 points and under. There was no level 4s allowed on those bunks or to be out there like that free, you know. So with this being said, man, let's just go to this close clip and just react to what he's saying, man.
In California, to different facilities throughout the United States, and I know 3 states that they sent them to were Oklahoma, Eloy, Arizona, and of course somewhere in Louisiana. Now, I've known a lot of people that were in Oklahoma. And according to the way that they got down, and this is how California moves, right? Anytime you send a substantial amount of heads from California, not only do you send their bodies, but you send that mentality, that get down. And they were sending a lot of Norteños, a lot of Southsiders, whites, blacks. But all these guys that they were sending from these higher level prisons, these 3s and these 4s, were in the mix. They had this mentality. Now, it wasn't like you got to earn your way and do good and get shipped to these prisons that were ran a little bit more loose, because you got to understand it was all about the money. These CCA prisons were very dangerous. Albeit you hear a lot of stories, man, about things that happen. And of course they happened because what you had was a mixture of inmates from different states. But California always took precedent over everyone. And the reason being that mentality that the West Coast and California has is different than any other prison system in the world. There's a lot that are...
All right, let me stop right there. He's talking about that level 3s and level 4s were going over there. No. There's only level 3s allowed out of state. Only level 3s. And if you drop points to a level 2, they'll put you in a design building called like a minimum custody or minimum something. And that's what's all the level 2s. Actually, if you were level 4 or a lifer, when you went to committee, they couldn't send you out of state. Why? Because they didn't have a block gun. They didn't have a, let's say, Mini 14. It was a low. Basically, they only had it was pepper spray and a paintball gun. That's it. So they were not taking lifers, and of course, they were not taking level 4s. If you were a level 4, just put it this way: you got in trouble and out of state. If you were a level 4, they'll put you in the hole for 1 year until you drop points to become level 3, and they'll release you again. That's what they used to do. Now, what this guy's talking about right now is that it seems like he thinks that all inmates from different states were going to these prisons. You know, like they were all mixed in the same yard, stuff like that. That's how he's talking about throughout his video, right? And that's a lie. That's a lie. That's just somebody who did it, who doesn't know about this. And the fact about this is that and I know a lot of people are gonna look at this video and agree with me, is that if you're from California, you were only gonna program with California. Usually, let's say like Eloy, like La Palma, that prison had 3 yards, and those 3 yards, it was nothing but California people, right? Same with Oklahoma. They had a certain amount of yards. I'm assuming all those yards were California people. California people couldn't program with inmates from different states. They couldn't. So Mississippi, California, or Mississippi, Oklahoma, and those people that were actually in Arizona. If you're from California, you only programming with your own people. So this whole thing about being mixed with other races and pushing and the mentality, California mentality, is bullshit. It didn't happen like that. Only we were able to program with the same Californian people, straight up. So let's go and see a different clip. Let's see what's going on with the different clip.
Like I said, pulled up there, and he went there, transferred from High Desert B Yard. And I'll tell you this, right? Like I said, it wasn't a privilege plan where you had to drop points and earn your way there. They just picked and chose whoever the hell they wanted and shipped you out. And that's the way the California system is. You could be on a yard one day, and for no other reason than they feel like it, they could actually come to your cell, knock on your door, tell you, roll it up. Where am I going? Doesn't matter where you're going. It's when you get there, you'll figure it out. And they'll ship you out. It's happened to me a couple times. You know, that's one thing about the state system in California and how it's ran. It's all about money and all about bed space. And if someone else needs your bed space, someone else writes a 1030. And let me explain to you what
he said his cousin, his brother was from High Desert BR. Just remember this. High Desert BR is going to be a non-active SNYPC yard. So he said you didn't have the option. Let me just put it this way. At the beginning, they're basically, this is how they used to work. At the beginning, they're not going to just send you and be like, okay, you know what, you figure it out over there. You have to go to committee. A committee is going to tell you, look, man, the only place we have open, you got to bounce out of here. The only place we have open, it is Arizona or some CCA prison and stuff like that. And usually they didn't used to tell you where you're going to go. Just tell you out of state, right? And basically, they have to tell you. You're not going to be, basically one day you're going to be out on the yard and they're like, hey man, pack your shit. They cannot do that. That's illegal. They cannot do that. You got the right to be present in your committee where they're going to talk about your case. They're going to talk about where they're going to send you. Or sometimes you get to, or most of the times you get to pick and choose where you want to go, right? For me, actually, I picked to go to the out of state, right? Because I was trying to get out of High Desert. I'm like, man, send me over there. And I knew it was a hot ticket that they were not hesitate because they were trying to send people to Arizona. The only way it's going to run like this is when the counselor goes to your door, it's going to give you a form. And it's supposed to tell you that's a waiver. You're waiving the right to be present on your committee. If you never signed that thing up and they transfer you to somewhere, it's not legal. You're supposed to be present in your committee, man. So right here, what he's talking about, it's not facts. Understand one thing: if they just call you out of nowhere, it's because you signed those rights when the counselor went to your door and gave you that paper. No, it usually tells you right there you're waiving your rights. So let's go and trip on a different thing. But just remember, his brother was on BR.
And I'll explain to you a situation of what happened with me. So I'm in Jamestown prison, and it was a non-active yard. Okay, and so I thought this is where I'm gonna stay, and I was happy as fuck to be there. I had a gang of homeboys from my town. I knew a lot of people. I mean, the 209 was thick. There was a gang of homies from Stockton, Modesto, Merced. It felt like Tracy all over again. I was in my backyard, right? I had it going on. I was cooking up batches of Pruno. It was the best place I could possibly be. You know, I functioned the way I want to function. Of course, man, it was a 50-50 yard, so you still checked paperwork. You still had it. You couldn't be a rat or things like that. You had to be solid to be there. But at the same time, the way the Norteños function, it was a little bit different than, say, a general population yard, whereas you were under the authority of a certain prison organization. In this place, it was kind of like back to the old school, man. Norteños had love for each other.
All right. Jamestown, SNYPC, whatever you want to call it, right? 50-50 yard, non-existent. Okay, he's saying that you have to be, there was no snitches, there's no chomos in that yard. Trust me, there were those guys in there. Guarantee 100%. I'll put my money in there all day. most of those guys, not all of them, but a lot. Not, you know what? I'm not gonna say most. There's gonna be a lot of people who are snitches, chomos. Be a small amount of numbers, depending where you're at. You know, especially on the level 3s, there's the population of a chomo is higher. You know, level 4s, who super slim, right? Because usually on level 4s, they remove them, get them out of the yard. Level 3 is different. It's a whole different get down. Jamestown, I'm assuming it's a level 3, man, if not a lower level. But there's no 50-50 yards. Just put it this way. They're not checking paperwork. Why? Because it's a PC yard. It's non-active. SY. There's no structure. There's no structure. There's nobody say, hey, man, if you don't do this, there's going to be consequences, you know? Because everybody is on their own. The only way you're going to show paperwork, man, is if somebody's going to fuck, if you're messing around with somebody, you know, that is your boy, or if it's going to be your celly. Usually that's what you do. You surround yourself with people like you. You know, you try to stay away from those guys with bad paperwork. And people who snitch, I mean, unless you read their whole case, you're not going to know who's a snitch and who's not, you know? Ain't nobody going to give you their fucking whole paperwork. The whole, basically their whole case. You know what I mean? Like, you're on the SNY, man. You're on the PC. They're not going to give you that shit. So, no, it's a lie. No 50-50. Trust me. If he was around some of his homeboys from me, either they were snitches or maybe they're not. But who knows? But I'm telling you, there's no 50-50. There are going to be snitches on that yard 100%. And there's even going to be some chomos right there. 100%. I'm just letting you know. 50-50 yard do not exist, man. I'm just saying. Fact. So now let's go to the whole different clip. Let's just play it.
Of course, when you've been in California prisons already doing years, and a lot of these guys that got shipped there weren't just getting shipped there off the bus. There was some that were going straight from reception to Eloy, Arizona, or they were going to Louisiana or Oklahoma, but the majority of them were hardened convicts who had already been doing time in California for several years. I know up until that point, my brother had been down like 10 years already. So this is the way it was, okay? And he actually went to Oklahoma as well and was out there with Wes Watson and got to see how Wes Watson wiggled. And he said, no diddy, right? Or, yeah.
All right. So, let me tell you something about this out-of-state prison. Most of the people that actually went to out-of-state, there was people coming from reception. Why? Because reception is the most easier. People are looking for a place to go. So guess what's open? Out-of-state. So they just send them to out-of-state. That's most of the people that came from reception. They went straight to out-of-state. Regardless if it was Arizona, Oklahoma, or Mississippi, right? I'm not saying that inmates from different prisons didn't go over there, but most of them, well, like the people I met, most of the people I met, they just came straight to Arizona. They came from reception, you know. So it was. I don't think it was like how he make it seem. Also, he's talking about that his brother ended up going to Oklahoma. Remember I told you. Remember that he was in B yard, high desert. It's a PC yard. So that means he couldn't go to Oklahoma. Why? Because Oklahoma was active, was GP. So if his brother was in high desert B yard, that means he was a SNY. He was a PC. That place flipped, I think, in 2007. So he couldn't go over there, man. So with this being said, man, that's another little thing, right, on the story, man. But at the end of the day, man, just to put it out there, man, Arizona, Oklahoma, Mississippi, they did have a lot of things going on. You had your weights, you had your boom boxes, you had your Xboxes 360s, your PlayStation 2s, man. He even talks about there's a lot of freedom. No, there's not a lot of freedom right there. There's a lot of day room for sure, in a sense. And there was a lot of incentives in the way that you got an Xbox, boombox, stuff that you can't have in California. But there was not a lot of freedom. He talks about Oklahoma being on this big riot and maybe incidents in Arizona, or why there was no incident, big riot in Arizona, whatever. But I'm gonna explain to this. There's gonna be incidents every person, regardless. Prison is prison, right? Uh, the only thing why, which there was riots in Arizona, there was riots in Arizona. Most of the riots happen in the day room. They cannot be a big riot because it's gonna be within your day room. Because let's just put it this way: the whole pot, there was three. There was the whole building. There was three pots, A, B, and C, right? So those guys, I'm talking about Arizona. I don't know how Oklahoma is. I'm assuming it might be like that, might not. But all those guys, they used to go to yard, and this little, I don't know, the yard was caged in. So every pot used to go to every cage. It was like a big cage just for one pot. They had a basketball court, a handball court, and a couple weight machines. That was exclusively for one pot, and the other pot was going to the next one, and there was just three for each pot. So it couldn't be a big riot if there was a big riot right there. Why? Because you can't interact with one another. You can't do that. So the only riots that is gonna happen is basically if something happens on the day room, and that's it. Which in Arizona was cracking. There was different types of riots, a lot of riots. I don't know if this ever happened in Oklahoma. I don't know how they got the system over there, whether it's if it was like Arizona where you go into these cages where only your pot goes to. So that means if that's the case, this riot that Gunner's talking about, this riot that Wes Watson is talking about, it couldn't exist, right? Because you're confined within your building. You cannot function with the other people. There's no freedom when it comes down to Arizona or CCA. It was all confined, especially in Arizona. There's different prisons. It's going to be different setups, even though it's the same CCA. But I can tell you what I know about Eloy or La Palma, So with this being said, man, hopefully you like this video. And just a quick reminder, man. I don't know, man. Hopefully you like this video, man. With this being said, muchas gracias. I hope and pray that you have a good one today. I wish nothing but the best to you and your loved ones. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on the video. Gracias.